You're live.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cleveland Community Police Commission Outreach Committee meeting. I am Maya Kincaid, and I call this meeting to order. So I will begin with our roll call. Commissioner Mason,
Here.
Commissioner Miller,
Here.
Commissioner Umosen,
Here.
myself, Maya Kincaid, is present. We also have along with us one of our co-chairs, Commissioner Sharina Zayek. And we have a very special guest today, which we will get to in just a moment. So before that, can we approve our agenda? I move to approve the agenda for today's meeting.
Second.
And so I'm actually just going to do that by a all in favor vote. All in favor of approving the agenda, aye?
Aye.
The agenda,
yes.
Aye. Wonderful. And then we have minutes to approve from our July and our August outreach meeting. I put forth a motion to approve both of those months' agendas.
Second with any corrections or changes.
Do we have any discussion, any corrections or changes in regard to the minutes?
Nope.
No? All right. In which
Yeah.
case, okay,
Sorry.
that's okay. What you got for me?
Can I be added to the 14th? I'm not even on here.
July.
Yes.
We talked about that, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, for the attendance,
Yes,
the roll call. Okay.
because it changed Coleman to, I got you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Oh, it was Tara Coleman instead of
Could
Taylor
I-
Miller.
Yeah, I take different,
For different committees.
yeah,
Okay.
I got it. I got you. We have an email on it. Got
Awesome. Okay. And so with that change, I move to approve this agenda. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I mean, I'm sorry, the minutes,
Minutes.
my
Oh,
apologies.
yeah.
Aye. Alrighty, all in favor. And so our minutes are approved for July and August. Next, we can move forward to public comment. It doesn't appear that we have any public available currently to comment. Which, officer?
I'm okay, thank you.
Okay, awesome. Wanted to extend the invitation, which means we can move directly to our agenda item for the day, which is our presentation from Joe Black for reverse ride-alongs. And Joe is awesome. He is going to tell us all about this program and a little bit about himself, I hope. And then we'll have a little bit of a Q&A for the commissioners so that we can better understand the programming. And yeah, Joe, take it away.
One moment.
Yes.
One moment, Co-Chair. Moving forward, I did miss this. We need to add the meeting decorum.
Oh, yes,
If, no one's here today, so it's fine. But,
in the future.
yes.
No. Alrighty, Joe, take it away.
So, each of you for your commitment to our city and for being here today. To be involved in a number of different measures in our community, and I know how much time and energy it takes to really steward these types of efforts. So, thank you for that time and energy. I have the luxury of being here to discuss the ride-along, but before I do, I will just give a little context of who I am and how I got in this position.
Yeah.
So Joe Black, as was stated before, I work for the Cleveland Foundation, but I am also involved with leadership coaching, and my son and I manage a landscaping business, and I am the executive director, so CEO for the Reverse Ride-Along. So I keep myself busy, but the core and intent of the work that I do is all about relationships and building community. And so a core philosophy that I personally hold is I truly believe relationships change people and they change outcomes. And I know we lean on data to make choices, but I think the deciding factor for me is the source in which I got that data and the relationship that I have with that individual. So if I were to make a broad assumption, those of you that I have yet to meet, if after we leave from today, you are more likely to provide some support if you see me stranded on the side of the road, just because we spent an hour together, genuinely.
Yeah.
You know, Had you not known me, you're more likely, not saying you wouldn't, I know some of y'all got some good hearts, but you're more likely to say, yeah, it's late, it's 7 o'clock, let me go ahead. He look all right. So I believe that that gesture of whether it even be a brief interaction has the potential to change outcomes. And then the work that I do, whether it is involved with this ride along or not, it's built on that premise and grounded by the belief that proximity is critical to our work. And so I firmly believe you cannot effectively serve people you're afraid of. And I believe that it requires relationships to truly understand those who you want to serve. So with that being said, I'm just curious, even with a show of hands, have any of you even heard of this reverse ride along? Okay, wonderful, wonderful. I will go and give some of the backstory related to this particular program, how it started, how we got to this place, and then we can dive into some of our outcomes to kind of like walk through an experience with me, and then I'll just leave it open for questions. All right. So, our mission, as stated here, for those who can't see the screen, I'll read it just for this purpose, but I try to avoid reading to you. I know you're capable of doing so. But our mission is to bridge gaps between community and service providers by cultivating relationships founded on trust and understanding. Through positive and intentional interactions, we aim to create safer, healthier, and more inclusive neighborhoods, impacting Northeast Ohio and beyond. This image that you actually see in the background was taken very early on, and it was at a daycare at one of our local partners. And so we had the opportunity to visit that as one of our sites, and I'll try to give some context on the images as we go through. So I think part of this work and what we really need to work on or explore is how did we get here and how do we sustain an effort that's built around safety and community engagement. And so while I want to frame this conversation in the context of we're talking about my work directly with law enforcement, the ride-along concept, which I will break down further shortly, is bigger than just law enforcement. So our vision is how do we create spaces, experiences, and opportunities to bring people together in informal settings to have dialogue and conversation that we believe will change performance outcomes. So to do that, we recognize that it's critical to manage the space. But in order to really be effective in bringing people together, you have to have a couple of things which I think we hold very near and dear to our work. One, we are resident-led. So we stand with the value that as we're bringing out various groups, whether it's officers, medical providers, whomever we're taking out in the neighborhood, that those individuals from the community hold the power to expose their neighborhood in the fashion in which they see. Additionally, we want to be solution-oriented. And so we know that there are a lot of high-strung scenarios in which people are coming together, stressed, frustrated, and not everyone has had the best experiences with whether it be law enforcement or medical providers in that fact. And so the way to manage that from our theory is to say, we have to collectively be a part of the solution. So what we challenge participants is we want you to have space and opportunity to intentionally share your point of view, where you stand, how you feel. This is not a space where we want you to hold back. However, as a facilitator and leader of this effort, my responsibility is then to challenge you to say, what can we do? And we find the inclusion of being part of the solution actually changes people's response and interaction to how they feel. Because yes, if we want to come to these spaces and just gripe, there are things that we have that are worthy of being griped about. We have unsafe streets. We have service providers that aren't delivering at a level that we always want. But it's not just about pointing a finger, it's about us collectively holding responsibility to the solution. And so with these two guiding principles, we have used that to develop a ride-along. So what is a reverse ride-along? And I'll be honest with y'all, the name reverse ride-along stuck with us. It was not necessarily my marketing genius that brought that out. However, what got us to this place is myself and a colleague, her name is Jan Thrope. We both had the opportunity to do a ride-along with a different law enforcement department. And the story that I often share is we're out driving around, we're seeing community, And we recognize in our reflection and response to that experience that the community, that the officers that we were with, did not have the opportunity to see the community in the same light that we did. Now, there are natural reasons why that can occur. I mean, obviously, walking around with a badge and the presence of police in certain communities creates challenges. However, we recognize that there was a difference in how we could see each other. I mean, in fact, I had a group of kids that came up to me and they was like, Mr. Black, as they saw me doing this ride along, you've been snitching this whole time. You know what I'm saying? So there's that belief of just the interaction and correlation as you're engaging with those who are providing service. With that being said, because we recognized that there was a disconnect in how the community was being viewed, we also saw an opportunity to say, what if we flipped it? And part of this is about addressing the power dynamics that naturally exist in these spaces. And so the flipping, which is where the word reverse comes in play, is we've been able to collaborate with the Cleveland Police Department dating back to 2017, in which we were able to host what we call reverse ride-alongs, where every police cadet has spent a day with us out in the community. The exception to that is those who were in during the pandemic. I believe there were 2 classes that we didn't do. There's also been like a few random classes where it was like one person due to a transfer from a different department or whatever it may be. However, for the large primary classes that you all see that walk across the stage and swear their oath to our city and our protection, I've had the opportunity to spend a day with them exploring how do we create relationships that transform our communities. And in doing that, we then hold the philosophy around how do we engage with different sites that are representative of our entire city. And so we, as in the real work that happens behind the scenes, is our team puts out a call into the community to ask if there are places that are willing to host us. Our philosophy behind it is we want to go to places where we believe we can engage with enough residents to have a one-to-one match per site. In an 8-hour day, which is typically what we do, starting at 8 a.m. and ending at 5 p.m., lunch included, which we sponsor, just to be clear, we will identify about 6 sites that we will attend. The average time that we will spend at a site is around 75 to 90 minutes. So in 75 to 90 minutes, my team and I work on establishing relationships that quickly. So you have to walk into a space, create space and opportunity for introductions and interactions. We usually dive into some very casual, generic conversation. Examples can range very widely, but it could be like, if you were a superhero, what superhero would you be and why? If you had to pick between being able to speak every language or play every instrument, which would you choose and why? And while we think about these non-traditional engagement questions, it allows us to open up and introduce ourselves in a different capacity. And now we are not just looking at each other from the sense of, you are here to work and serve for me, and I am here to be protected, and all of those things. We are looking at each other from a very human perspective. So we use that as an introduction and then allow the conversation to dive deeper in whatever direction, ideally, the site wants us to go. And so what that means is that each site kind of picks and chooses the level of dialogue and conversation, which drives back to our point of being resident-led. And we allow ownership and creativity from those spaces. So we've done a wide variety of things, and that's what I'm going to walk us through as I give you all the sample of the schedule. But before I go, are there any just core questions related to what this is? The major points I want you to keep in mind is we started in 2017. We were working directly in partnership with the Cleveland Police Academy. Primarily, that has been our audience, although we have done a few ride-alongs for some senior officers, particularly in District 3rd District. However, our main focus is the Police Cadet Academy, or Police Academy. Questions, concerns before we go on into what the experience feels like?
I do have a question. Just, so why the focus on the cadets specifically versus existing and senior officers?
Time. I mean, it really comes down to when you look at the demands that you have on these officers. And to be honest with you, the thing that those cadets, they don't have the option, one, because they're in the academy. But a lot of times you got people walking out and saying, I don't want to walk into a meeting just so I can get fussed at and yelled at. So there's not the natural instinct to say, hey, I want to go hang with Joe, unless you spend time with Joe and you realize how these experiences occur.
Yeah.
And so what we would love to do is find a way to push our program to a deeper level, to where we can begin to have those deeper, more intimate interactions throughout the lifespan of someone in this sector. And so my ideal scenario would be to be able to think about teaching, and I want to be clear, I view it as like community engagement training. Like, this is more like a skill that we're trying to develop in an informal way. But I would love to be all the way in the schools at like Tri-C, working my way up to then being in the academy, being part of the collaboration with the FTOs, the field training officers, and then allow us to be a long-term engagement portion. And so that would be my dream. However, it takes resources and capacity to do so. And we know that the biggest risk that my team holds, particularly myself, is our social capital. So our concept is not that insightful. It's not unique in the regards of, if you hear what I'm telling you now, you can try to do it. What we stand on is skills and capacity. And it takes relationships and the ability to be an amazing facilitator to do what we do. It takes trust, and it takes trust on both things. I can say that there's leadership within our own Cleveland Police Department that says, you know, Joe, you've shown, and we trust that when you go out there, it is with the intention of building relationships. And so that's the core of what we do. Any other questions before I go into what a day looks and feels like? All right. So here's where we're going to do a visual imagination of what it would be like to be on a ride along with me. All right, and just so we're clear, I'll reiterate this later, but the next one is scheduled for potentially November 7th. We are trying to finalize that date, and we'll coordinate. We also do not share our agenda in advance. We leave that for the sites to do their own promotion and marketing. Early on, when things were a lot more hectic than I would say they are at this moment, there were concerns about safety on all ends of just publicly acknowledging where a large group of people would be in any case or capacity. So we hold true. So if an individual site wants to do their own form of promotion, we do not discourage it. It is at the discretion of the site. However, you will never publicly see a schedule that clearly outlines where we will be, except those who are a part of our core team. Yes.
How many residents would you, for this, for this session, how many residents would you?
It can vary.
What's a minimum?
It can vary, because part of it is around recruitment, right? So we've had scenarios where we did not get the large number of residents that we wanted, and here we come with 40 officers and we only got 8 community members. And a lot of times you'll find that some sites just didn't necessarily put enough recruiting out, or they put recruiting out to their individual stakeholders, and last minute people are like, wait a minute, they're coming with how many officers? Nah, I'm cool. So you have those elements. Our goal, to be very clear, is a 1-to-1 ratio. Now, we do, unfortunately, given, again, timing and capacity, we bring out almost all the officers at once. So these classes have been going a little bit larger. The first one we did was for 66 cadets. That's a lot of people. And we were like coordinating where 2 buses were going here and 2 buses were going there, and it was a lot, but it was to make it smaller. Intimate is more better. However, when you go to large groups like 44, and we're trying to bring 44 residents, that also means that we can only go to places that can accommodate 80 to 100 people. So it limits where we can go because of that. All right, but that gets to your question, Chris? All right, so imagine we are now saying that we are participating in this ride along, and I also do this for nonprofit boards as well. We would meet first thing in the morning. In this case, we were meeting at the Sisters of Charity Foundation. This is where the bands met us, they picked us up. We went through a walkthrough around what the day would experience, what to expect, just giving the groundbreaking and established relationships. One of the things that you'll hear us ask is like, you have to share your name a lot during this day, because every place you go to, you're meeting people for the first time over and over again. But one of the questions that I love hearing with these cadets is nicknames. Those get pretty interesting. So if you ever get a group of men and women who can share, who've been with each other through the academy, though, they have some interesting names for each other. But we go through that. In this scenario, we went to Hitchcock. Hitchcock is a center that is dedicated to women who are dealing with drug and alcohol issues. We go into that space as respectfully as we can, so we don't take any pictures unless we're allowed to do so. However, a conversation in there could be a number of things. It can range from, like, you know, what is something you wish people, what is something people assume about you that's not true? And then we get into, let's talk about scenarios where you felt respected. Let's talk about experiences where you held trust. And a lot of these things are challenging because you see, as we went through this, a lot of the cadets who are in that space also have some very personal, intimate relationships around with people who are dealing with this type of disease. And so we go through that conversation, we break down those walls. And typically the feedback that you'll hear from the amazing women that we get to interact with is I've never had an opportunity to sit in a space with this many officers and feel at peace and feel heard. I mean, let's really focus on to be at peace and to feel heard while you're sitting in the space with 40 to 50 of the next emerging officers in our city, some of which you may have had negative interactions with in the past. So we'll go to that, and that is their main event for the day. That is their feature moment, but that is just the beginning. Now, the magic of what I do is actually at this point here. You just left Hitchcock. Me and my team are now in the van with these officers slash cadets, debriefing on the experience that they just had. So now we really get to talk, like, in the comfort of their own space among peers. What did you hear that challenged you? What did you hear that inspired you? What is your take on some of the challenges that you see, and how can you improve your behaviors and practices? Now, my role and responsibility is to facilitate and coordinate that conversation. It is easy to try to correct and solve all of those things, which as a community member, I try to advocate for how we want to be treated, do some learning and peer engagement amongst themselves. We are also intended to use this space so that we can talk about what is it that in the city exists that you should be aware of. Where are key restaurants where you can build some valuable relationships? Where are some locations in the city that you may not be able to engage while you're with us, but along this journey? We leave there, and on this day, we shot over to the west side to St. Herman's. And St. Herman's is a facility dedicated to men who are struggling with housing. And they have done a number of things, from trying to define community. We've had scenarios where they were building houses with log. There's been some really interesting activities that they facilitate, but the core of it is getting a group of men to be able to share some of their challenges. And when you think about various communities across our city, we note that there are a number of services dedicated to individuals who are unstably housed, who are struggling with those issues on the near west side. And this is the opportunity to dive deeper and initiate some of those initial relationships. We could leave there and then run over to a barber college. The barber college is where the community feels like you're in my space, we own this space, gloves are off, interact with us how you feel. But that is the luxury that we have based on how the program has been designed to allow community to really express themselves as best they can. And so there has been challenges and difficult conversations in those spaces. And when I say challenges, I don't mean it in a negative way. I just mean there had to be time and space to clear and express our feelings. And the thing that I find so interesting about many of the cadets walking into the space, they seek the grace of saying, you know, I'm not on the force. I am not the individual that engaged in that activity. However, you are walking into a space where you will be representing some of those individuals. And so we really try to use that as an opportunity to say, well, if you stand so firmly in the belief that you are not a representation of how people have, here's your chance to course correct and create your own recognition for who you are as an officer. So that is a morning. Now, every site, we typically have some form of food. Each of these sites, we would have as many community members as we can. Usually when we go to Hitchcock, it's somewhere between 20 to 25 people. St. Herman's is about the same, and the Barber College can fluctuate anywhere from 20 to 40, depending on how many people are getting haircuts at that time. And so you're imagining a room full of officers and cadets and everyone, and there are people actively getting while people are talking about injustice and politics and everything else in between. Yep. So we're going to skip through these, but I just wanted to give you all a sense of some of the places that we may go. We've been to Ridall Farms, we've been to the barbershop, and what I like about the barbershop is they actually use the basketball as the speaking token. If you don't have the ball, you need to be quiet. So those things, and it just really, they've been a great partner with us throughout this time. So getting to our impact. Now, mind you, our to-be has changed over the years, and so there is some nuance in how this data was collected. However, we can stand behind these particular numbers that 87 of the officers stated that they expanded their perspective based on the interactions that they've had. 91% of the officers think that community policing is positive. And then lastly, we had 86% of the officers credit the reverse ride-along, so identifying or finding out about a new resource in the community. And so those are just very generic ways of describing how just an experience in the community on one day creates exposure and opportunities to collaborate. So to give some context, we have spent over 142 hours directly engaged with Cleveland police officers. And there's some nuance with this next number, but we've facilitated this for 512 officers. The nuance is that we do this before the actual academy closes out. So some of those people may not have officially graduated and been sworn in, and or some of them may have already transferred from the department. However, to say who's been through our program, at least portion of it, we can account for 512. We have interacted with over 4,000 community members. There is duplication in there because there are some people who want to continue to come back. However, I would lean and say that we have had some significant impact in our community and interacted with people of all ages. I mean, we recently went to a site where we were at a school and they were, I want to say they called it, it's the old Thomas Jefferson. I can't think of the new name of it, but it is the international school. And so we were dealing with students who English was not their primary language. So imagine going into a room and you got a translator here helping you establish a relationship with a young person. So we've done things with reading the kids all the way in preschool, all the way to being in senior citizen sites across the city. That equates to 93 organizations have been a part of this in some way, shape, or form, whether it means we directly visited and or they were a presenter at one of the sites that we visited. I would assume that is a very conservative number because I would believe there are others that just may not have verbally spoke up around what organization they represent. Now, what I wanted to make sure that I also spoke about before I close is we were awarded $45,000 to the CPC. I use the word "word" because we have not seen a dollar, but we talk about that offline, y'all. I love y'all. But what I will share is that over this time span since then, we have established our 501c3. We have executed 3 ride-alongs on that time frame in which we've engaged with 479 people at minimum. We have 112 officers who have went through. We've established a strategic plan for our organization, which includes both an evaluation of our program as well as trying to get some guidance for where we're moving forward. We have filmed and released a documentary over the time frame, one of which we've shown in partnership with members of the city to highlight how relationships create transformation. And we know that as a next step, the next ride-along is tentatively scheduled for November 7th. I'm pretty sure that will be the date, but we're just trying to make sure our team is in position to do that. So I will stop there. Are there any questions or concerns, next steps that you all would like me to address?
So, questions I probably have many, but we can talk about this all day. Concerns, I have none. I think it's an incredible program. Would love to be a part of the November 7th ride along if we can. You know, those of us who can attend. I know, speaking for myself, I would love to. I would love to see this play out. And then as far as next steps, so what I can say immediately before we like open for just general discussion, because I would like to have a little bit of conversation around it, if, you know, we can. Yes, and so we have been discussing, the format of our outreach committee meeting every month. We recently had, what a lot of us felt was a very intentional and impactful, meeting where we allowed the community to speak. And we have discussed, the past, the commission has had forums where the community has been able to come out around a very specific topic and talk about how they feel about it. We want to transform our outreach committee meeting into a furthered opportunity for community to come out and have those same type of conversations about whatever the topic may be for that particular month, or whatever the public has concerns about or wants to talk about. And so to facilitate that, some of the things that I heard you talking about in regard to the reverse ride-along is the trust, one, and the skill to be able to facilitate conversations like that so that they are constructive and impactful versus like people coming out to, you know, gripe and, you know, have their opinions laid bare. And I think that as a commission, we deal with a lot of that that is not constructive. And we really want to open up the opportunity for our community to talk to us directly. So a couple things. I would definitely like to either A, see if there is a way that we could facilitate potentially being a site for a visit, but also if we could at some point, and it would probably be into 2026, early 2026, if we could invite you to come back and kind of talk to community members and maybe get feedback from community members about this program. As a part of one of those conversations that we want to facilitate on a regular monthly basis. Because yeah, I think it's great. But does anybody else have anything, any thoughts, comments, concerns, emotional outbursts?
I think you got it. No, I would just say that, I was fortunate enough to be able, I was actually at this session right here, I was able to attend.
So you've done this.
I've done the reverse ride-along.
Okay.
Well, I was actually I was at 2 sites that day. I was invited to 2 sites that day, and it was a great experience. The group that, the cadet group that I met, they were a smaller, more intimate group. I think it was less that day. And it was funny because I didn't let them know I was on the commission until the end. And then I offered myself as a resource to them. And we kind of talked about, you know, the CPC came up. And they didn't really have anything negative to say. They just said they really, you know, wondered about it. So I just, you know, at the end, I introduced myself and let them know that I was, you know, would be there for them as a resource. And I think that in itself, you know, kind of helped kind of ease any worry they may have had because they spent that whole day with me as just a regular citizen and just realized, hey, we're all the same. We're just alike. So I had a great experience and really, I mean, literally, there was a couple cadets at the end of that I knew a little bit about their family lives, you know, so it was just very helpful to just meet them in that capacity and see them as like average everyday people and not this authority figure. So I appreciate that.
Yeah. I think one of the takeaways for me, And to exactly to your point, Commissioner Zayed, is, anything that breaks down barriers between people who think that they are totally different, even to, I love, like, the questions that you were referring to, like, if you could be any superhero, who would you be? Or, like, I remember I did an icebreaker for a program that I was a part of that asked about, what would your superpower be? And I think we did that in our, we did that. We did that same thing. But it gives you a lot of insight on people's worldview, and the way they see themselves, and what they value and think is powerful. And I think that the program is incredible. I think it's a really good way, to that point, to break down barriers. Yes, yes. Sure.
Through the chair. Ooh, that's so loud.
So loud.
Anyways, through the chair, what is the process like? So you had mentioned that your key audience is the cadets, that you also have done ride-alongs though with other like groups and individuals. What is the process to do that with organizations outside of the Division of Police, outside of the academy? Because I do think that this could be a beneficial thing for our commissioners and the entire commission to potentially do that if there's a process in place for them to not be a site, but rather be in place, like in place of like the cadets, like they go on a reverse ride along.
So the core of this work, and again, I came to you all to discuss my work with police, but the core of this work is building relationships. And so our vision has and continues to be that we want to offer this to a variety of service sectors. So we started with law enforcement, we have expanded to healthcare providers, and eventually I'm going to do educators and legal professionals. I am also providing this, we piloted this, but we're also providing this for C-suite level leaders of nonprofits and boards. And so the vision is that we all can continue to do better by finding ways to get out in community to build relationships. The challenge that I would offer this group to think about is that a lot of times we want to go in the community for a number of things. Validation and exposure. And this is about relationships. And so I would be more than willing to explore and consider offering that, not only to this group, but other leaders across our city, if we are aware and understanding that, one, community holds power and authority over the agenda with the framing from us as it relates to what we want to accomplish, and two, that the core of the engagement is built and grounded in relationships. If you believe that relationships can help ground you in thinking about some of the challenges that you are chewing on and deciding, if you believe that exposure to various sites and locations can help you really navigate some of those difficult things, we would gladly be a partner and could facilitate that. I mean, to be very explicit about it, if you said, hey, Joe, we want to go in the community, we got 4 hours and we want to discuss these type of topics, we are able to like frame up and engage sites to really dive deep in those topics. But it's not going to be like, hello, y'all, what do y'all think about the CPC? Mm-hmm. There's no core relation. There's not enough substance in that to even get people to really digest and provide you with any realistic feedback. It has to come from a place of, what do we hold it together in alignment? And from that alignment, how can we figure out how to work more collaboratively? The short answer is yes.
Commissioners, anything else?
And this is a free service.
For now.
We gotta jump on it for now.
Right.
To answer that question, there are naturally expenses as we have established a precedence on how much we pay our staff members for their participation. We also have been and held the cost of purchasing food and all of those things. So every site that you go to when you're thinking about we're feeding 100 people, that has a cost to us. So the core now is that we have grant dollars that have been able to support. If we can get access.
And I cannot speak for my colleagues in total in budgets and grants, but I do know that it is a top priority and it's something that is being worked through, getting through, grants as a line item. I know that it is a priority, so I don't want anyone, you, in particular, but any of the, grantees, it's not a priority. It has been met with challenges, but it is a priority of ours to get the grantees the funding that you were awarded and very much deserve, because we do believe in the program. And particularly as those of us who have been commissioners since this last round of funding went out, we very much believe in the programs that have been supported, and we really want to see you get your funding. So I just want to say that on behalf of my colleagues. And if nobody else has any other questions, I just want to sincerely thank you for your time, and thank you also for the work that you're doing. Because as you mentioned, it takes a lot. It takes a lot to facilitate this kind of work and to be effective in this kind of work, and it takes a heart for your community to even care to get this done. So, personally, I really appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to November 7th, which is the day after my birthday. So, yeah, this will be a great way to start my own personal new year. So yeah, thank you, Joe. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you all. As a heads up, years ago, we were spotlighted by the NFL Network on a show called Indivisible, so you can look up some of our work there. They came locally to highlight those who are doing this type of work. The documentary will probably be publicly available somewhere in the early top of next year. We were looking at doing one last type of activity before we made it public, but you all can have access to that at some point in the near future. And we just look forward to this continuing partnership.
Thanks, babe. All right, Commissioners. It looks like we are moving right along. We have some old business to discuss. So, firstly and foremostly, the community event calendar. Sam, do you have an update for us?
Any updates on that? Is it continuously being updated? I believe it is shared with you all. If it is not, please let me know. I'll also double check. And you should have editing powers. So if there's ever an event that you see that's not on there, please let me know, or you can add it yourself, or I can add it. I am taking another look at city council events, city hall events, the different block clubs. I'm trying to get connected with the block clubs so I can put their meetings on them, because there's like 27 block clubs in the 2nd district alone. So trying to make sure those are all updated. But that's essentially the only update I have. I just wanted to keep y'all in the loop on that.
Thanks, Sam. So next, let's talk a little bit about the district policing committee meeting. So firstly, what I want to know is, as a committee, are we all clear and aware on what our role is, based on the consent decree and the charter around the district policing committee meeting? Do we all understand what our role is in those? So as defined in the charter, and in the consent decree, and I actually intended to pull this up, but, so the idea is that the, district policing committee meetings are supposed to be a space of collaboration and strategizing between community and the Cleveland Department of Police. And so where we are right now, those meetings to compliance with the consent decree is to meet that need for actualizing strategy. So what we had discussed in the meeting that Sam and I had an opportunity to attend, that included the monitor, the PAT team, and the, Sam, please remind me of the name of the incredible division that answers some of those complaints. They were at the meeting with us.
So the meeting had community relations, police accountability team,
Yeah.
Cleveland Police Monitor, the Division of Police, specifically the CPOP,
CPOP, that's what I was looking
Community
for.
Problem-Oriented Policing.
Yes, that's the word I was looking for, CPOP, thank you. So, CPOP naturally, in the scope of their work, analyzes needs and complaints from the community and answers those needs and complaints. And a lot of what they do is naturally what the consent decree is asking for, which is strategizing with the help of community and with the input and impact of community to solve issues for the community. What we are addressing is how we transition or transform that work into the district policing committee meetings more effectively so that we can meet the standards of the consent decree from that perspective. So essentially what that means is like taking it kind of out of CPOP and including or incorporating a report into each of those district meetings so that we meet that need for the idea of collaborating, because the collaborating is happening. It just isn't necessarily being communicated that way in the district meetings. A lot of the times the district meetings are an opportunity for the department and the community to just kind of talk to each other. Community members, a lot of times it tends to be the same group of community members that are very engaged in their community. They come out very similar to our meetings, where it's kind of the same people. They come out, they express what they're experiencing, and then, you know, the officers that are facilitating the meeting offer them contact information or collaborate with them outside of the meeting, which is probably most effective. But there isn't necessarily always a report of like complaint, action, outcome. And so our role in that is to assist with the strategizing piece and figure out how we can be kind of the liaison between complaint, action, outcome, and report. Does that make sense? So we are still very much working on establishing what that looks like so that these meetings can fit more concretely into the requirements of the consent decree. Are there any questions, concerns, emotional outbursts? Sam?
No emotional outbursts this way, just a quick comment.
Sure.
We had actually had a meeting last month, I believe. Yes, last month. Let me back up. Initially, there was a meeting scheduled in August that Maya, myself, and Alex had attended with those parties. So the community relations team, Pat, police accountability, the Cleveland Police Monitor, and the Cleveland Division of Police, specifically the CPOP coordinator and the 2nd District CPOP officer. Earlier this month, in September, we had a follow-up meeting again with those same parties. This time, the co-chairs, the community co-chairs for the different district policing committees were invited and were at the table. So each district was represented by their community co-chairs. We had 1 through 5, which I was happy about to see that they were there. That conversation, it kind of went more over where we're at in the consent decree, specifically at paragraphs 23 through 26, where the city of Cleveland is at in terms of compliance. Is it partial, general, non? So, or operational, I think is another option as well. And so that was a good meeting. We are waiting to have another one to keep the conversation going and to keep the collaboration growing and stuff, because that is within the first paragraph, or within paragraph 23 of the subsection district policing committees, is to have an ongoing relationship and collaboration between CRB, so Community Relations, CDP, Cleveland Division, and the CPC, so us. So that is occurring, and we're working towards it. I will be the one attending those meetings. Of course, you all are more than welcome to attend those meetings, but I know they happen during the day, and a lot of y'all have jobs that are during the day, so you can't make it always. But I will be in attendance at those meetings, and so at our monthly meetings, I'll be sure to bring back any updates that I find out at those ongoing discussions.
Yeah,
And we appreciate that. I will also be at those meetings. I wasn't able to attend the very last one for the exact reason. It was during the day at a time where I was unable to make it, but in the future, I intend to prioritize being at those meetings as, the chair of this committee so that, I can make sure that we are properly represented. Not that, Sam, you are not a proper representative. Someone from the commission there. And the conversation at the first meeting was really good, and it was really collaborative, and I'm sad that I missed the second one because I really wanted to meet each of the individual community members that chair those meetings. So I think some of what we determine needs to be established is kind of a overall framework for those meetings that will be consistent for each district, so that we can always ensure that certain things happen in each district and each different needs. So keeping that in mind, but kind of creating a framework so that it looks relatively the same at each meeting. So let's say you're a community member from the first district that happens to attend a fifth district meeting. It will look relatively similar in course of action, if that makes sense. And so that's an ongoing thing, to Sam's point. Commissioner.
Through the chair, so that relationship building is basically from the co-chairs from the DCPs and us, and bridging that gap as far as you laid out the solution. Okay, so that's where we probably will meet with them and come together to do something for that.
So the meetings that Sam is referring to are those collaboration sessions, if you will.
Okay.
Any of us are welcome to attend, as
So
Sam
those are
mentioned.
collaboration.
They are, yes, they are very much collaborative. They have been more conversation-based and solution-based than like a structured meeting. We're genuinely just talking about the opportunities that exist and trying to come up with in-the-moment solutions that kind of work across the board. And, that's not always easy, but it seems like everyone genuinely has the same goal in mind, which is to coordinate these meetings in a way that meets the consent decree requirements. And that's what's really important about getting these meetings, off the ground in an effective way. We need them to meet the requirement, very specifically speaking to the strategizing and collaboration between community and the department. That's a really big part of that.
Y'all keep us in the loop on when those meetings are.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Through the chair, so another thing as well, just to expand upon that, I think we're in a learning phase right now. Being quite direct, this collaboration is kind of new, I think, for all parties involved, right? The consent decree, as we know, has been around for 10 years, but the collaboration amongst our individual entities has not always been there in this capacity, right? So we work with community relations. We, of course, partner with the Division of Police, but in terms of the DPCs, it hasn't always been something that's been there like that. So these first few meetings, as Maya or Commissioner Kincaid had mentioned, is learning sessions and discussion, strategizing and finding solutions. It's been a lot of brainstorming, and I think especially the last meeting was very beneficial because it gave the community members a chance to ask questions, and it gave us a chance to answer from our own respective organizations and what our perspective of things are, right? And so when all 3 or 4 perspectives went out, that microphone was bothering me so bad. When those perspectives went out and then they came together, the community got a really well-rounded understanding of kind of where I think the city as a whole with all the different entities is at. So right now it's a lot of brainstorming, a lot of collaboration, a lot of understanding, and a lot of learning on our ends as well as city entities. So at our last meeting, I mentioned, the responsibility or the onus of responsibility falls upon the city entities to ensure that this collaboration happens. It does not fall on the shoulders of the co-chairs because they're volunteers. And so we want to ensure moving forward that all of our collaborative efforts make sure that there's a seat at the table for those community members. So that's kind of what we're building right now as we're doing these meetings from my perspective and my understanding. And then eventually, I think we will get to more brainstorming, more solutions, and more tactical efforts, because there is conversation about continuity of practice, and consistency of practice across the city. Because the meetings are basically all ran the same across the city. It's going to be different because each district has their own culture, their own vibe, their own community, right? But just trying to develop that, and we'll eventually get there and talk about that. But first, I think all parties are trying to lay down some groundwork and understanding, so that way we can move forward on one accord.
What are these, every other month?
So currently, right now, there's no meeting in place. They're getting scheduled as availability and as, I don't want to say as needed because they are needed. But right now, we're still waiting for the next scheduled session, and then hopefully we will build up a cadence of meetings so that way we can have a running schedule. And then I'll make sure that you all are included on those invites so that you can be in attendance. Absolutely.
Thanks, Sam. Okay, do we have anything else, questions, comments, concerns about the district policing committee meeting?
I have one more thing.
Sure.
This Thursday is the first district policing committee meeting. It'll be at, I want to say, St. Ignatius of Antioch Middle School. It is at 6 o'clock. So that's this Thursday. And then I believe there's meetings this week. They're all on the calendars. But this week is first district.
Thank you.
Can we extend that invitation to all commissioners, not just,
Absolutely.
Anybody who wants?
Yeah, I would also encourage,
if that's your district,
I encourage commissioners, if you live in the first district, whatever district you live in, I encourage you to attend your own district. I, of course, encourage and greatly strongly suggest, especially as outreach committee, that you try to attend all the districts. But I definitely encourage that you attend the district that you live in, so that way, as we've mentioned before in other meetings, that the community sees a commissioner who lives in their district. You know what I mean? Yeah, exactly. So, definitely.
Thank you. All right. Next order of business is the community survey. So a couple things. I've had conversation with the co-chairs and our interim executive director around the community survey. So really easily put, the community survey will be reworked. It will be a matter of us putting out another requisition to a firm or an agency that can create that survey in conjunction with us and help us figure out the best strategy to getting that survey to as many people as possible. That is going to be a work in progress, and will hopefully open up our next year, open up 2026. I doubt very seriously that it will happen by the end of this year, but it is one of our number one goals. It is also in the works, as I'm sure you guys know, that we are revamping our strategic plan, our 18-month plan. There was a plan before those of us who are new commissioners, which all of us are new commissioners. There was a plan in place. And so that plan is going to be reworked and rethought. So a new strategic plan will come out. And of course, that will also be impacted greatly by the hopeful soon addition of our permanent executive director. So that will obviously impact how that strategic plan looks, because we will want that executive director to come in with an idea of what their plan is to assist us in this work as well. So the community survey will be a large portion of that strategic plan. So that's pretty much where we are with that. And if we don't have any discussion around that, that pretty much concludes old business.
I'm sorry.
Diane?
Diane, I'm sorry. No, not today.
I don't need it.
And I
They
think
just
that,
say community survey, but it's, you know,
yeah, no, I don't think we'll
I
vote
don't
on
know
that
how broad
today.
that is.
Oh, the other thing that I do want to discuss, was everyone okay with October 13th for our October meeting?
Yeah.
Does that work for everyone?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Does that work? Okay. Jocelyn is gonna send a, Chief, does that work for you? You check it?
Checking our money phone.
Oh, Columbus Day? Yeah.
It's not a holiday, I'm just playing.
Indigenous Peoples Day.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that will be the date for our, outreach meeting for the month of October. Yes,
We work. No, we work.
yeah, we were on that day. What was your concern?
My question, no, there's no concern. The question is 6 to 7:30. Is that a good time slot for y'all's meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
And we are moving that meeting, in light of the fact that we have, well, one, because this meeting was pushed to the end of the month, obviously, and our next meeting would have been a week from today. But also because we have the hearings, scheduled for the month of October as well, and so not to clash with either of those, we opted to move that meeting to the 13th. So, yeah, I also wanted to, as a point of discussion, just wanted to get some feedback. I know that I've had the opportunity to talk to, Commissioner Mason around this. And I think, Emo, we've talked about it a little bit, among other things, but I would really, really like to see this particular committee's meeting, function, as I mentioned, more of, kind of a community talk back session, right, where we will go through, orders of business, initially, and then we will reserve time, no less than maybe 45 minutes to allow community members to address whatever they would like to address, or to share whatever they would like to share. But to Joe Black's point about facilitating those type of conversations, and again, making sure that they are constructive, making sure that voices are heard, but respect is also shared. I just wanted to, one, get an idea of, how each of you feel about that as a potential moving forward for our meeting coming through the end of the year and into 2026. And then any concerns, questions, or ideas you may have around that type of structure.
Yeah, I'm good. Oh, through the chair, I'm okay with that. I like from what everyone was mentioning as far as just trying to build on that collaboration. We can't do it without, community members, police, everybody involved, because we're all in the community. So, I'm perfectly fine with that.
All right. Wow.
If I may, through the chair, if I can offer one suggestion though, as you're thinking about that, with the selection of a permanent executive director and the strategic plan, along with the community survey and other things that we might want to have slated for the new year in 2026, my suggestion would be that community forums put on a quarterly basis, and potentially turning one of your meetings into a forum, but not every monthly meeting have a community forum. Just because I can foreshadow or foresee that there's going to be times where you're going to need your committee meeting time to get some work done, right? Whether it's brainstorming, working on events, potentially passing motions or something. But I do think it is of value to potentially meetings on a quarterly basis be turned into a forum. That's just an idea and a recommendation that I have, so that way not all your meeting times are split like that. And also what we can do is quarterly turn one of your committee meetings into a true style forum, right? So that way you don't gotta worry about any new business, old business, nothing like that, right? But then also, if needed, as needed by the community, we can host other forums on top of that. So that's just my suggestion in terms of what I think would benefit the community and benefit you all with your work. But of course, the decision is up to you.
I like that as a, we want to hear from you session.
Okay. And I think, you know, we can explore it and figure out what works.
Mhm.
So our next order of business was public comment. And unless our officer has something he wants to share, he's all good. All right. Well, with that being said, we appreciate you being here. Thank you, my fellow commissioners, for being here as well. And we can get some of our time back, and I formally adjourn. Have a great evening, everyone.
Do I need to fill this out, Sam, for the attendance?